So, Gail, thank you for coming. I'm so glad to have you back.
Thank you for having me again.
I'm excited about today's topic, especially during the beginning of this year. We were talking about how 2024 will be shaped by storytelling on my podcast. And I believe that you're the perfect candidate for this topic, what I call elevate spirituality from the perspective of a solopreneur. So I'd love to have the audience know a little bit about your journey thus far, your story behind how you became a solopreneur.
Uh, how I started as a solopreneur, I think I was just always independent. I always wanted to work my way. And I realized when I had the opportunity to start freelancing, that was my introduction into solopreneurship. I was a programmer and I was moving back to my hometown. And for some reason, I just knew, okay, I'll apply at these different um, temp agencies. And I found a temp agency that specialized in tech skills. So I applied there. And technically, I was an employee of the temp agency, but they would put me on these different contracts. And I really loved the variety of work I received, that I was working on projects. And as soon as I was done with that project, I move on to the next one. And I just got a little taste of that freedom. And when I started thinking about, could I get my own clients? Could I do this by myself? That was my introduction into being self-employed. I tried that. I was a web programmer. I tried working with small business clients to build their websites. And this is back in two, oh gosh, probably 99, 2000. And I didn't have the skill set yet to be able to work with small business owners. I didn't know how to communicate with them. I only had this corporate type of environment, and I did not know what to do to not only get clients and be able to grow my business that way, but I didn't know how to manage client expectations. Because back then, people thought that you build a website and you make millions of dollars. Still not true. There's so much more behind that. So I was trying to find my way. A friend of mine suggested to explore becoming a massage therapist, because I would massage my friends if they're, the back ache, and I would just rub their back, and they would say, "You're really good at this. Maybe you should do this as a career." I went to massage school. They encouraged self-employment. We got a whole 4 hours of business training in our massage school. But thankfully, because I was working a lot with marketing departments when I was making websites, I at least had the awareness of what I was supposed to do to start and grow my business. So I became a massage therapist, kind of got the business cards. Back then, I got a telephone book ad. I put my ad on Craigslist. This is how long ago everything was. And I started networking. I joined a Chamber of Commerce. I joined a BNI group and basically started my business as a massage therapist.
And along the way, I believe that, like you almost implicitly mentioned it, that how do you network? That some of these skills don't come through education. It's almost,
Right.
yeah, it's like a skill through
Yeah.
learning and doing. And I kind
Hmm.
of think of that as elevate, because you're elevating yourself and making yourself more visible in the crowd.
Right. Right. Moving from expecting a paycheck, from getting a job, because you do have to market yourself to get a job. But then now you're elevating yourself to a bigger audience, even if it's just the local businesses in this local market, is you're getting known in this bigger arena. And I knew I was supposed to network because I knew I was supposed to get referrals from chiropractors, but I didn't really know how to do that. So I checked out a book. This is before we Googled everything. I went to the library, I checked out a book on networking, and it had really great advice. I wish I could remember the name of that book, but that was when I started learning, okay, this is what you're supposed to do.
Yeah.
And I would follow those steps. And the networking groups I joined, they had education. And so I was always open to learning more. And I think that's a big part of being able to elevate yourself as a business professional or just even just as a person is being open to this concept of lifelong learning and knowing that there's always more to learn and there's always more room to progress and improve. And I'm still doing that because now that I have an online business, it's like an even bigger arena of being known in my little niche in on the web.
Yeah, and you do help people now in that skill set in your current business. Maybe you can share a little bit about that now.
Sure. And this is from both my experience being a small business owner, focusing from a local market to now an online business, is realizing that the key to really being seen online is not necessarily more marketing. It's actually getting more specific and even smaller in your specialty or what everyone calls a niche.
Mm.
Is think about it as you're solving one problem for one person. And the more you do that, and the more that you show people that this is what I can do, this is how I help people, and here's all the other people I've helped, then your name gets known. You become that big fish in the small pond kind of concept. And that's something I've been struggling with too, to be honest, is that because I do have a wide variety of skills. What do I focus on? I can help a lot of people. So who am I going to focus on in helping? And I've noticed that the more specific I get, the easier it is to get easier it is to get clients.
Completely relate to this idea that having too many skill sets and having too much knowledge sometimes, and then everything's like this fun shiny thing. You're like, I'd like to
Hmm.
someone there, or I can do that. It's really easy, and in a way it's great having those like broad range of skills, going from anywhere from design to some low level development,
Hmm.
and networking. I mean, it's like the whole mix. Now,
Hmm.
in all of this, when you figure, it sounds like you're still figuring it out, but when you figure out your niche, tell me, how is it that you connect with those people and give them enough information to know that, oh, what I'm missing is I need to elevate myself, and maybe people don't know what they don't know.
Right, right. I have figured out my niche. Um, I've finally figured out my niche. And I think I was just fighting it for a long time. And I would dance around it. Well, maybe we could do this, but then I'd get pulled away and no, we should be doing more of this. Part of it too is I'm in business with my husband. He's a business coach as well. We coach together. And we finally realized this past year or last year that we're two different people. And let's just go with that and have two different niches, two different specialties. It does make it harder because now it's like we have two separate businesses sometimes, but it feels more true to me, and I think it feels more true to him as well when it comes to who we're gonna be focusing on how we're helping others. So I have figured out my niche, and it is other marketers. Because I've been in marketing for over 20 years. I know what it's like to work with small business clients, to work with medium-sized business clients, to be a freelancer, to do things like sales appointments and proposals and meeting client expectations and project management, team management. I get that. I understand that. And I've realized I've had this pattern of trying to change everything, maybe every about 7 years or so. Almost like, well, I've just realized that I would try to, like, blow things up. Like, blow up this bridge and start all over again. Because I changed businesses so many times too. I mentioned I was a web programmer for a little bit. I was a massage therapist. I built that into a wellness center. And then during the recession in 2009, 2010, I changed to social media marketing. And now I do business coaching. And I remember a friend of mine who is also a business coach say that I was losing credibility in my reputation with every career change. And I didn't want to not ignore my passions. Like, if I'm really pulled towards a direction, I want to go towards that direction. But I'm realizing in my old age, 48, just kidding. I'm realizing finally, it takes me a while to learn my lessons. I have to really get kicked in the in the gut a few times. I'm a stubborn person. I'm a strong-willed person. So it takes a few times for me to really get it. But I'm realizing several things. One is the reason why I've been blowing things up like that is a little bit of fear, a little bit of imposter syndrome, of this fear of maybe being too successful in a particular niche, a fear of maybe of what my friend had told me, oh, I'm losing credibility, so people aren't going to trust me. Versus, what if I use that experience I have, but if I use that experience I experienced, I have the wisdom and the knowledge, and bring that over to my next passion, to my next business. What if I was able to continue running that previous business without me? Whether it's I hire a manager and they run it, or I sell it. But so it doesn't necessarily have to be destroyed to start over. It could just be reformatted and repurposed and build build the new business upon that foundation I already built, rather than destroying it to and leveling it to the ground.
I find what you're expressing it sounds like stepping stones.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think of it as a negative thing, because I think each of us that enter that entrepreneurial space have it in us that we are basically we're seeing things beyond what they are now. If
Mm-hmm.
it makes any sense. I was just watching this Disney behind the scenes documentary, and how when they were building the Futureland, I think it's called, or Tomorrowland.
Tomorrowland, yeah.
Futureland. They didn't know. They didn't know what tomorrow looks like. So that everything
Yeah.
was being built around it. And then there was like this very raw skeleton. And it was intimidating. However, sounds like you had these stepping stones. It almost feel like spiritual growth, so to speak.
Yeah. That's been happening as well, because I know in the previous episode I talked about how I was born into a Christian Protestant family, and then because of a few experiences felt like, I don't think this is right for me, but I don't know what is right. Am I atheist? Am I agnostic? Am I spiritual? And I'm kind of finding my way through that. And that's been sprinkled into my professional life as well. This idea of growth and faith and trust, of knowing, do I believe in a higher power? Do I know there's a higher power? And I've been settling that's not quite the right word, but I do have more of a feeling of knowing, of trusting this process, that as long as I'm aligned with what's true for me, that I'm on the right path. And I think that's true in my business as well, is instead of fighting something that, "Oh, that didn't work, so I'm gonna just stop it altogether," of instead of doing that, of being able to look within. For me, it's looking within and connecting with my inner power and going with that. And now how I put that into my business is, even though I'm focusing on this smaller niche of marketers, I still have my group business coaching clients who are my original target market, service-based businesses, which is a very broad, that's a very broad target market, because some are in health and wellness, some are in B2B. It's kind of split in the middle. I'm moving from that broader space into the smaller niche, but they're coming along with me. The marketing clients will have things that are a little bit more specific to them, but they'll also be part of this bigger group of general service business owners. So they all get to come with me. And I do believe in with marketing is you focus on this niche, you focus on the bullseye, but as long as that they find value in what I'm offering, and they still feel like they're a good fit in the community, because I have a membership program, they can come on in, come join us. And even though maybe writing proposals is not for you, that's okay. You don't have to take that course. You could you could focus on maybe the offer development course. Maybe that would be a better part to focus on.
That's really wonderful. And I realize that it's been a journey for you to get to that place to know your niche as of now.
Mhm,
And it's based on again, I mentioned stepping stones. Sounds like the evolution of the sum total of everything you learned has become where you decided, well, I'm my own market, so why not serve that market, right?
mhm. Yeah,
So
yeah.
I love that. Now, when it comes to the two concepts of spirituality and elevating, whether it's
Mhm,
personal elevating, because let's say an example being meditation is a way to elevate your spirit and align
mhm.
your higher self. Perhaps, even there are other ways you elevate your customers. Maybe you could just speak on that as your words of wisdom in the last few minutes.
Yeah. This is something that is new for me that I'm currently working on. One of the recent certifications I received was as a professional diversity coach, and now I'm also working on getting my certificate in diversity, equity, and inclusion. And I would love to include that into my coaching consulting and showing business owners how they can incorporate DEI initiatives in their business, in their marketing, and I'm working on how does that show up in my voice, in my marketing, especially in such turbulent times that we're experiencing in the world. The world seems very divisive right now. And this is where I'm working on elevating my voice, both discovering what my voice is, what my message is, how does that weave into my work? How do I share that into the world? And then being able to show to model that for my clients. And for me, it all starts with values and my purpose. So what do I truly believe in? Like, this is my core values. I have to have this in my life. Otherwise, there's a disconnect and I feel agitated or burnt out. And my clients are going to be experiencing the same thing. So that would be the first step, is getting really clear about your values. And no matter what, that's the baseline that you make your decisions on. Uh, a technique that I had learned through my diversity coach is, let's say I value integrity. And then for me, my definition of integrity is I walk my talk. So if I tell my clients to do this, I am doing this as well, or I've done it first before I'm teaching them. So if I'm talking about, finding your niche, find one client, one problem is, and I'm trying to determine, okay, who's my ideal client, and I don't know which way to go, I could ask myself, how does this align with my value of integrity? I'm trying to figure out my social media messaging, because it's not going to be just about how-tos, how to market your business. It's also going to be about, how do you stand up for diversity, equity, inclusion in your business, in your marketing? And if I don't do that, I think I would be out of integrity with myself, because it's my core value. It's what I believe. So that's one way that you can start elevating yourself in your business and in your messaging, and is to determine what your core values are. These are you have to have. So you have to live by these values. And then as you grow your business and make any kind of decision, even in your life, is check in with how this is aligned with my value of, this. And that will help you feel and be more in line with your true self. I think you're muted, Shilpa.
I love how you summarized that, because for those who don't know, you're Filipino descent, and you are taking what is inherently part of your culture, perhaps, or your origins, and you're wanting to make sure that you now not only elevate your own ethnicity, perhaps even others, and then you bring it into your work, which I just love. In a few months, when I have you back, I'd love to hear how you're implementing that in terms of a mindfulness approach.
I'm happy to. Yeah.
Thank you, Gail. I hope you have a great week.
Thank you, Shilpa. Thank you for having me.
It's always a pleasure.